Afternoon and welcome back. It's Tuesday after Easter. Hope everybody's had a good Easter and I've been able to get out in the gardens and enjoy the weather. We did have a couple of frosts here and a big thunderstorm on Saturday, but apart from that it wasn't too bad. A word on the frost is don't be tempted to put anything tender outside just yet, because the frost is still quite hard of a morning time and will damage your plants. And there's nothing worse than putting all your time and effort and energy into growing something nice and then for the frost to come and ruin it. So particularly things like these, which we're going to be talking about today, which are dahlias, they really will not like getting cold. So keep them inside, keep them nice and protected. Little additional follow-up to last week. You may remember we sowed some chamomile seeds. Well, if you look in this tray here, you'll see that we've actually got a nice bit of germination and quite a lot of chamomile seeds ready to go for this year. So that's a good positive thing, and that's inside a week, so that's not bad going. What I thought we'd do today, I brought back a load of dahlias from Stamford Hall, which originally came from Headley Court. They've been in my front porch. They have actually grown far more than I'd expected. In fact, if you look at this one here, this is a Bishop of Llandaff, which is one of the sort of the black-leaved ones with the lovely red flowers. We've got nearly 18 inches worth of growth on it. So what I thought today we would do is just focus a little bit on how we can get more plants from one plant. Dahlias, it's actually quite simple. All we're going to do is cuttings. We're still using very similar skills again, horticultural therapy wise, as we have been over the last few sessions. We're still using our hands, we're still using our cognitive skills, we're still standing, so we're still kind of covering the same bases. So how do we get one of these to grow and become another plant for us? It's actually quite simple. You've got a choice of tools you can use. You've got my trusty gardening knife or a nice sharp pair of secateurs. Either will do the job. I say these have all grown a little bit more than you might like, because you really only want the cutting about 3 inches long, but we'll trim these down and we will see where we go. So what we need to do is separate one of these shoots from the tuber, which is below the soil here. All we're going to do initially is to separate it with a nice clean cut with our knife, so we end up with a cutting which is far too long, but we can trim it down. Obviously you can see along the stem we've got what are called nodes. Nodes are where the leaf joints are and where the leaves come from. Realistically we're looking for a cutting about 3 inches long, so this sort of length. So with this cutting here, what we will do is where we have a pair of leaves is where we're going to make our cut. We cut below a leaf because we've got the greatest chance of rooting happening at this union of stem and leaf. So here we go, we have roughly 3 inches long. What can happen with the cutting is it loses an awful lot of moisture through evaporation. So we need to lessen the likelihood of evaporation happening. So what we're going to do is very carefully, you can actually just peel these off, peel off the leaves that are surplus to requirements. And again, if you look, we've got the apical set of leaves and we've got 2 side leaves here, which again we don't need. They're just going to take up energy on the cutting that we don't need, and we're just going to pop them off as well. So there we go, we end up with a nice looking little cutting. Ordinary pot of compost as before, dibber as before, and we're just going to pop this in like we have done before. And when we put it in the pot, we're looking to where we took off the middle set of leaves here, for that to be about level with the top of the compost. So we dib it in, slide our cutting in, and then firm it down. And pot this size, we'll probably get 6 cuttings. So again, this is where a horticultural therapy session is great, because we've now shown the patient how to do this. Every patient would then have a stock plant like this, and they can learn in a very hands-on way how to do it, quite literally hands-on. So we'll do it one more time just so you can kind of get the idea behind it. We're going to separate it from the parent plant. So we've got an oversized cutting. We're going to look roughly where we got 3 inches long. So down to about here, be absolutely perfect. We're just going to make a cut, set that aside, and again we have our lovely little cutting, and we're just going to trim it all down. And there we go, it's as simple as that. Dahlias are a great plant because we can propagate them in many ways. This is one way we can do it, by cuttings. We can let them grow, we can let them flower, and we can then keep seeds, and we can propagate from the seeds. Or when you have a really big bushy clump like this, you can actually literally cut the tuber. You can cut a section off. So this plant here, we could actually in theory cut it into 2, pot them on separately, and we end up with 2 different plants. So I'm just going to continue and fill this pot up. While I'm doing this, I would like to make a call out to anybody that's watching this to send us in some pictures of what you're actually doing in your gardens. It's great for me to stand here showing you how to do all these things, but I know 1 or 2 of our patients are watching this, and I know that they are busily gardening themselves, and that's great. It's great to know that they're carrying on the skills that they've learnt in their horticultural therapy sessions with us, and they're using them at home during this lockdown period. So if you are doing anything interesting in your garden, please let me know, send us some pictures, and we'll get them up on Instagram as well, because we're all in this together, and it'd be nice if we could all share our gardening endeavours together. So this is pretty much, we'll do one more in here, and don't worry about cutting these cuttings off of the dahlia plant. You're not in any way going to damage it at all. In fact, if anything, by taking a few stems out of each individual plant that you've got, what you will do is you'll make it grow new stems. So you'll actually get stems which flower at different times, so you'll actually lengthen the flower period. So actually, don't worry, you could cut all of this off and you're not going to do it any harm at all. So pretty much that's what we're after. A little bit of propagation. We'll keep these in the greenhouse, we'll keep them watered. In about 3 to 4 weeks time we should be seeing some good signs of roots, and we'll be able to pot them on, and these will be able to go out in the garden and flower for this year. So as always, if you've got any questions, if you've got any interaction you want to have with us and what we're doing here, anything you want to know about HighGround, horticultural therapy, anything like that, send us a message. I will be back on Thursday this week, and I think we might try and do something a little bit different, something that's not using hands. So we'll get out in the garden and use some other tools and do some different activities. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best. Bye.